Hi, and welcome to this the Values Workshop, a new series. But you've been here before, and I look forward
Yes,
to this
I have.
conversation, Gunjan. Um,
Yes. Very good evening to you.
yeah,
And
would
thank
you?
you so much for the second chance. I'm here again. I'm looking forward for more fun.
Yes. Would you please give a bit of background before we begin on the conversation? What do you
Yes,
do?
about myself.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. So I am have traditionally been an advertising copywriter, but currently I run my own boutique copywriting and content writing studio. So in that sense, I am a creative entrepreneur for how many six, it's a 6-year-old company. And yeah, I by hobby I'm a poet and essentially a writer at work, a writer in life, a writer through and through. I guess that's like a short
Yeah.
and appropriate introduction I can give for myself.
Yeah. So beautiful that is. How long were you working before you started your own setup?
13 years.
13 years. Oh my
So
God.
in the 13 years, my first 7 years were spent in agencies. And then I moved on to working more independently because I just felt that it was a more time effective way of working. Because otherwise in Mumbai, the travel is long and then you have the water cooler conversations, lunch pe itna time chala jata hai, etc. etc. So I thought it will be better. And plus, whenever I wanted to think of having a child, I didn't quite think of either leaving the child behind or leaving the work behind. I thought it's the best way to marry the two, that just be at home, build up a system where you can be at home even while the child is playing in front of your eyes. So
Yeah.
fortunately for me, it worked.
So the reason I asked the question was, say both of us have like around 20 odd years in the business, and we've seen our uh, ups and downs, and
Yeah,
we are supposedly seniors who have the hang of our professions, who lasted the whole journey.
yeah.
Since this series is called The Vulnerable Me, my first question when I was thinking, what should we talk about, or at least the first question, how should I enter the conversation? The thought was, at this stage of our lives, are we still prone to vulnerability in the way we approach our work, or is it like settled, or is it just a notion, or we like to pretend we are vulnerable? What is the scene really?
So okay, very interesting question. Vulnerability, I often only think of it at a personal level. It's not very often that I've thought of it at a professional level. But the truth is that see, vulnerability to me is nothing else but just being your true authentic self, right? Like
Oh,
your real self is always vulnerable. You're always a child from within, right? Like you never really grow up. It's just the body and the world that makes you grow up. Yeah. So where can I take my true self, and where, if, and then there is no boundary, whether I'm in life, whether I'm authentic in life, or whether I'm authentic at work. So if at work it means that there's a certain feedback that I'm not able to take very well in my heart, and I'm a little upset that shit, yes, it you fine, fair enough. It's best to accept it and to see what I can do about it, rather than wearing the garb of seniority ki ye mere sath kaise ho sakta hai, ya why now, or whatever. Or it happens every day, especially as a business person. So it happens every day because as I told you, I'm a creative person, by nature, and by basic, my first instinct is always that of a creative person. It is not of a business person. But because I've chosen this path, I've also, I guess, chosen the challenges that come with it, right? And every time my vulnerability is exposed, every single day, in different manners, right? And I have fought it, I have thought about it, I've wondered what to do with it. But every time there's only been one answer, that just be okay with it, just be your true self, whatever your heart says, and it's okay to be vulnerable, right?
wow. You give it both the problem and a bit of a solution I spotted in there in one or two lines that you said. I
Mm.
think the first is obviously the acceptance bit. The second is also, I want you to delve a little on, uh, let's let's accept it and do what we can about it. So
I'll tell
what?
you what, accept it. And sometimes doing nothing about it is also okay, I have realized. because do what na wo bhi ek aisa chakkar hai that you may not find the answer, and then again you are in another spiral. Keep now I've accepted, but now what do I even do about it? So I have realized that sometimes it's just okay to sit back and say, okay, accepted. Okay, now let the forest unfold on its own. I will just be in acceptance, and can I just take my next step knowing that I'm in acceptance? That's all. Because now that's another different spiral, right? So
Yeah.
it's best not to go from one spiral to another and give yourself
Okay.
a little break.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. This was a very interesting answer. So now I want to, I want to break doership in two ways. One is
Yes.
not doing anything is a choice. You are actually sitting down to make the conscious call that I am not going to interfere with the process of life, whatever it brings me at this point. Uh, it's not it's not static. It's a very dynamic choice that you're making. Because, like you said in your earlier answer, or rather what we were talking, internally something is always on.
Yeah.
So things are happening, the concerns that you have may still stay, but you just put the demons to rest for a while and said, let me just see what happens.
Yes.
But my question initially came from the part where uh, I'll try and explain. When one is not confused or one is not fearful or doubtful, the mind is a lot more clearer because it does not allow the confounding part of the situation to overwhelm us.
Okay. Yeah.
So, because it is open, it can seek solutions or rather get to workable things. So,
Yeah.
for example, if somebody is unwell in my home at this point of time, and it seems a little overwhelming if I do not know what is happening. And I think in the last 2 years, we heard people getting worked up because of small cough and cold or even fever. We all went berserk with this whole thought, पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है, COVID तो नहीं हो गया.
Yeah.
But just waiting for a while and just seeing, okay, wait. Instead of getting worked up, like I always go to a homeopath first. Uh, so instead of just jumping to conclusions and going and getting oneself admitted or doing things which are not my usual things of doing, I would think that the better way to do things is wait and then take the decision that is supposed to be taken. You go to the doctor. If he suggests no, that this seems a little difficult, then you can worry. If at all, worry is a part of the solution.
Mm.
So I meant from that point of view that do you think just that acceptance bit gives you a ground to open up to certain other possibilities that may otherwise not strike you?
Yes, I definitely. So as you said, the homeopathy thing, right? So the moment I'm in acceptance or the moment I'm okay about it, alternative solutions might come. I may think of homeo, I may think of something else, I may think of a kada at home, I may think of meeting that one dog that I had really liked or I had really trusted. So definitely acceptance ke baad hi solutions can open up, right? And this is very much notes to self. It's not like I'm speaking from any place of knowing or any place of extra gyan. This is as much of self-talk. But yeah, I
Yeah.
have realized, or every time I do remind myself that sometimes acceptance is the best solution and there is no need to rush forward. Yeah,
Okay.
and let things unfold.
So one devil's advocate question. You are already overwhelmed. You are already panicking because the situation is going beyond what is your normal levels of acceptance or normal levels of figuring out things. Uh, I'm sure in our brief lives, we've seen certain situations in the last 2 years. So we've seen a lot of them with friends, families. It's been quite scary. We were never prepared for something as big as this. In that situation, how does one find that point of acceptance?
I think an element of practicality is definitely needed. Yeah, matlab, what we are saying obviously is clearly in a metaphorical manner. Ki if you are to see life and its challenges and stuff like that, then acceptance and then allowing time to unfold its solutions is the thing. But if you're looking at it in a practical scenario where you're speaking of say a COVID thing where you are just feeling that something is not right, then obviously just accepting it and waiting for solutions to unfold may not be the right idea. In all underlying factors, I feel your heart and mind always knows. If not your mind, your heart always knows. When things are not right, and when you know that you can't be waiting for solutions any longer, you have to take that next step. But there are also times when your heart knows that I can wait it out, I can give it 2 days, I can give it a week, I can give it a month, if need be an entire year, for something to unfold in front of me. So honestly, if we just go into a little bit of silence and listen to our hearts now, I think a lot of solutions lie there, instead of looking for anything which is very prescribed कि अच्छा ये इसके बाद ये उसके बाद वो. Because that one, it's never a one size fits all, right? It's always like your heart knows best what is good for you.
Um,
That
that's there. My I've been pondering over this point while you were answering. Which is the point in the heart when I'm saying the situation by itself? The first thing that strikes us is our experience about it, or what we've heard about it, or one of the things that they talk about in Vipassana in the initial 10-day course is that there is one form of knowledge which we've read about or which we've heard about. It may not necessarily be our experience. COVID was a good example. A lot of people panicked, and unfortunately things may have worsened for some of them, and which was not required in the first place, perhaps. But the stories we heard, the media, almost the entire world went mad about the whole possibilities of negative things that could happen.
absolutely.
And there were certain articles which I was reading that influenza has killed more people in the US, or heart attack is the reason of many more answers, and of all the other things, road accidents were even the bigger reasons why people died. But I think none of us wanted to be sane in that moment. So my question to you is, how does one pause, if I were to use the term pause, before one reaches the point of acceptance? Or is it a practice, or what? How do you approach it? What has happened? Were you always so calm and composed, or what happened to, or what is your this?
I only look calm and composed. I'm not always so calm and composed. In my head, I look, but in my head is always overworking, and hence hence I said notes to self. And I think it's also human nature, right? Like I said, it was only Siddha Sant Mahatmas can, essentially probably say that they are truly calm and composed. Otherwise, life keeps throwing googlies at you all the time. Okay, anyway, so to answer your question, I think it's very contextual. You can't, give a blanket solution to this. It's like I have heard of, there was this doctor who knew about COVID, and he was so concerned for his family that he shifted to a quiet location somewhere, and for these many months or years, whatever, he's been inside. Even now he has not come out, of wherever that small place that they're living in. So ye kya hai na, this is very contextual. Of course, I do feel it has also got to do with your own mindset, or a little bit about, I don't know, I don't want to call it faith or anything, but ये बहुत ज़्यादा contextual है, what in the sense of what you're asking, because one is a entirely different practical situation when it comes to health, where there are a different set of rules that play when the question is of health, when the question is of thinking what to do next in case of a health diagnosis. You can't just sit and be in acceptance and wait for solutions to show up. If you are having a heart attack, you have to go for the next best thing that is right there for you. If there has been a bad diagnosis or something, you have to go for the next best thing that works for you. Of course, one blanket rule is to not panic, but very easy for me to sit and say that here. But the person in that moment, it's very it plays out very differently. And having okay, now speaking from my own experience, I think what works is really to go back into that place and of your inside you or in your heart, and really see what is the next step. Is panicking going to help in any way? So then, but is acceptance going to help versus is panicking going to help, right? So I would say एक वो अलग ही तरह का situation है, health or any other, disaster or any calamity, is a completely different sort of a scenario where these rules won't apply. But when we're looking at the other philosophical side of life, or the other, not like life and death situations of life, then a different set of rules apply.